のいます。
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Fat Man.
What up? Welcome back once again to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now this time it is going to be Scarecrow from Infinite Frontier. Now, don't know much about this version of Scarecrow. I have looked up some source images online. Definitely has a pretty creepy, spooky vibe. Not your traditional Scarecrow in the least, but you know me, I'm all about the out-of-the-box characters. I love all the new versions of characters that we never thought we'd get, or we never even knew that we would love. I've just been having a lot of fun with the stuff McFarlane's been putting out. Don't get me wrong, I do love me some classic versions, but these deranged versions have really been doing it for me recently. Now I did get this from McFarlane's toy store, so that's where you could get one as well. Now he does look pretty demented in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. But first, he does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. Now, of course, these are not needed, but sometimes they come in useful. He also comes with his data file card. On the front, you do have some source material there, so that's pretty contrast to what we see here. And on the back, you do have some information. Add that to the collection. Now, he does come with no accessories per se, but he does come with tons and tons of new sculpt, which what I have recently learned is that in the process of making these figures, plastic is like the minimal of cost. What costs the most is actually sculpt and tooling. So when you're looking at a figure, if it has like completely unique sculpt work and tooling, it's a really expensive figure. So you can't necessarily say, take the plastic from the stand and give me some alternate hands, because that's not how it works. The tooling is actually what costs when you make these figures. But let's take a closer look at this guy. Has a really unique, insane look. I mean, something straight from nightmares. I did hear a lot of people online talking about the colors, but of course, as you know, if we need to, we will do some repainting on this guy just to make him look a little bit more darker, or to bring out all the little details in there. But first impressions, he's just not your standard Scarecrow, so you have to get used to him. In fact, he's like a out of this world nightmarish take on the Scarecrow, but he does have something very horrifying and intimidating with it, which is those syringes right on his fingers. So even if you get close to him, that's the first thing that he's going to hit you with. Pretty intimidating. But all in all, the sculpt work is on point. I'd really like to play around with this guy and just see what he's really all about. Now let's take a look at the head. You have some really nice sculpt work even on just the head. You have this crazy hair sticking out. You have this kind of hat made out of straw, I guess. Kind of a rat catcher look to him with this gas mask and those crazy goggle eyes. Pretty spooky looking, I could tell you that much. He has a little connector here into his hat. I wonder what that's all about. And I'm pretty interested to know what's actually under this. Is it like Crane as a regular man, or does he have, his Scarecrow mask under there? Well, pretty interesting. Let's take a look at the articulation. Off the bat, you're not going to get too much looking up because of all this hair. So that's, not too much there. You can look down a little bit. got a lot of rotation to the right. The hair moves with the figure, so that's pretty nice. And then to the left, that opens up your, the way you could pose them, stand them. And you can actually cock his head for some character. Okay, moving down. Now I knew this was going to be a lot of layers, kind of like a homeless person, I guess you could say. So he has like some, sarap up here, and then you lift it up, he has like a poncho kind of thing here, like a red one. And then you look under there and he has another, kind of overlaid fabric, which is pretty much like, someone that's from the streets, they actually dress in layers. So that's pretty interesting. And that's actually how you're going to be able to look at the waist. If you hold this up, you can see the waist in there. Now let's check out his articulation. Now he does have side to side at the waist. He does have a full range of motion all the way around. You can twist him, put him in some different poses. He actually does have a lower waist swivel and an upper chest swivel. He actually leans forward. Check that out. That's pretty crazy. Even with this, fabric in front, he can actually lean forward. And then he could lean back, but it's a little bit restricted with all this stuff back here. But that's, more than I thought he would get as far as range of motion in the waist. Pretty interesting. Let's take a look at the arms. Now, he does have a little butterfly joint inside of there. He does have a bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. Moving down to the forearms, tons of sculpt work actually, even on the arms, and going down into the tubing that goes into the syringes on his fingers. Pretty nice attention to detail. He doesn't have ball joints, he actually has the sculpted wrist joints. They give you that hinge motion, and then you could turn it full. Giving you a lot of range there in the wrists. The other arm is the same. He does have some tubes here that are just randomly going through his sleeves, the ones that are connected to his hat. And then you have more syringes on that side. Pretty crazy. I mean, he's definitely spooky. Now, you don't want this guy coming at you in your nightmares. You could get a T-pose pretty easily. Even almost a Y pose, guess you could say. A lot of movement. The arms are really slender, so that kind of helps give it more movement. Crazy. Okay, let's look at the legs. We'll hold this up just so we could see the legs only. Now let's check out the thigh swivel. Actually, he has a lot of thigh swivel. Pretty surprising. He can kick up. He can kick back. Because of the trunks, since they're rubber, they have a lot of slack, allowing him to kick back pretty nicely. Put his leg out. He does have that hip rotation there, movement. Double jointed knees, pretty smooth. Straighten them out. Down here, he does have the sculpted ankle joints, giving him a lot of range. Up, down, right to left, and then toe articulation. Now before we go, let's check out all the lower legs. He does have a ton of new sculpt work here, and these legs are, a completely new body that they could use. Are really slender. Tons of like wrinkles in the cloth there. A bunch of details. It's just crazy the amount of detail in here. Up and down the legs. If somebody could find a use for these in a custom, that'd be pretty interesting because they're pretty slender legs, but they have a lot of beautiful sculpt work. Looking at the bottom, no tread, but he does have some identifying marks. Moving up the back of the legs, like I said, just take in all that texture work. You could see like all the lines, all the wrinkles in there. Pretty crazy. He does have the same, overlay of clothes. And then he has these, I guess these are supposed to be sticks, because he's like a scarecrow. So these might get repainted into brown and they'll probably give him a whole different look. Pretty interesting. The back of the hair there and then his hat. All in all, I don't actually know what to think of this guy. Now he is going to cut a pretty scary piece of the shelf up there. Don't know, what to think of him. But, looks really good. I mean, it is comic accurate. You got to give him that. So there's a lot of images online that show him this is what he looks like. And he does actually look pretty horrifying. Before we go, let's, check him out next to some other figures. Now, let's check him out next to some out-of-the-box Batman figures that I just really love, which will be, let's take a look at him next to Devastator. This one is from the 2-pack. Then let's take a look at him next to one of my favorites, Straight Jacket Batman from The Last Night on Earth. Let's take a look at him next to Death Metal Batman with his scythe. They kind of fit together a little bit. That's pretty weird. And then finally, let's take a look at him next to another Scarecrow. This is also from The Last Night on Earth, and this is the one that rides Bane's back. But he has his own little stand because he got no legs. But he also has syringes on his fingers, which is kind of crazy. But he has like that orange-red breathing apparatus and a disgusting pubic bone at the bottom. That's why he doesn't have legs. But, So all in all, pretty interesting little figure. Don't know much about him in the comics, but he's just another figure that I'm happy and glad to put up on the shelf. You don't really know what to think of these figures, just like the Superman from Worlds of War. But once you get them in your hand and you check them out, you're pretty impressed by them. But anyways, you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.